If I told you there was a European wine region where you could drink world class wines, stay in luxury hotels for half the price of Italy or France, and eat incredibly well, would you book a trip? Because that place does exist, and it's called Bulgaria. After two wine focused trips there, I can confidently tell you it's one of the most overlooked wine destinations that I've ever visited. By the way, I'm Hilary Zio, a certified sommelier, two-time wine book author, restaurant owner, and wine educator. After 20 years in the industry and visiting over 50 countries, this channel is all about helping wine lovers travel better and also giving you an insider's look at how the wine industry really works. So if that's you, subscribe below. So I've actually been to Bulgaria twice. Both trips revolved almost entirely around wine, between winery visits, wine bars, restaurants, and exploring the country's major regions. I've seen much more of Bulgaria than most wine travelers ever will. So rather than giving you a complete guide to the country, this video is like a mashup of my favorite experiences, favorite wineries, favorite towns, and everything I personally would not miss if I was planning a trip there tomorrow. So what's funny is that Bulgaria wasn't even on my radar before my first visit. Years ago, if you asked me about Bulgarian wine, I probably couldn't have named more than one grape or one bottle. And then I started tasting more of the wines and I kept writing the same word in my tasting notes. Impressive. That curiosity eventually turned into two separate trips and a genuine appreciation for what Bulgaria is doing today. So before we get into where to go, let's talk about why Bulgaria really matters. So Bulgaria has been producing wine since roughly 4000 BC, making it one of the oldest wine producing areas in the world. So during the 1980s, it was actually the fourth largest wine producing country globally. And after the fall of communism, the industry had to rebuild itself. And today, a new generation of producers is focused on the quality over the quantity. So let's start in Sofia. This is Bulgaria's capital, and it immediately surprised me with such beautiful architecture, cathedrals, public squares, and parks. It just feels far grander than most travelers ever expect, especially if they've never even considered Bulgaria as a vacation destination. So even if you're heading straight to wine country, I think Sofia deserves at least a day or two. So one of my favorite discoveries was Grape Central. This wine bar has one of the best selections of Bulgarian wine I found anywhere in the country, along with a really talented kitchen. So it became one of those places where I planned to stay for one glass and really ended up staying for hours. And if you're a wine lover visiting Sofia, don't skip it. The food throughout Bulgaria was another really pleasant surprise. The easiest comparison I can make to the food is somewhere between Greek and Turkish, but really with its own unique identity. So you'll see a lot of tomatoes, eggplants, potatoes, grape leaves, pork, some, local cheeses. In fact, the Bulgarian white cheese is served with like almost every single meal, and it become one of my favorite discoveries of the trip. The second place I would absolutely visit is Melnik. So, this town is often called the smallest city in the world, and it just feels like stepping back in time. The landscape is unlike anything else I've seen in Europe, with these dramatic sandy cliffs, unusual rock formations, and ancient wine caves carved into the hillsides. It's one of those places that feels so completely unique. And one of the best things I would do in Melnik is just simply walk. You can just take these little hikes through caves, climb into viewpoints overlooking vineyards, and wander through these old streets, really just at your own pace. And the scenery is so stunning. The town just feels so authentic. So if you've already been to Tuscany, Rioja, or Bordeaux, and you want something totally different, Melnik is worth the trip alone. The third town I wouldn't miss is Plovdiv. It's Bulgaria's second largest city, but what I loved most was the energy. The city just feels so young and creative and vibrant, with tons of wine bars and restaurants and little cafes and shops that just fill the cobblestone streets. If Sofia is Bulgaria's historic heart, Plovdiv feels like its future. I found myself spending a lot more time in Plovdiv than I expected because of all the wine bars. Obviously, the food scene is excellent, and the city has this cool, relaxed vibe that's just hard not to love. If I could compare it to anything, maybe Munich and Interlaken, sort of, but with like a whole lot better value. Now let's talk wineries because that's probably why you're here. One thing that shocked me throughout both trips was how modern the wineries were. So before I arrived, I expected facilities that might feel a little dated, honestly. Instead, I found state-of-the-art equipment, super modern architecture, beautiful tasting rooms, and sophisticated winemaking programs. Many wineries just felt more advanced than places I visited elsewhere in Europe. The first winery I'd recommend is Orbalus. If you've ever seen photos of a winery shaped like a giant barrel, that's Orbalus. Beyond the architecture, it was the first certified organic winery in Bulgaria and continues to focus heavily on sustainability. Their Chardonnay Viognier blend was one of the wines that really stood out during my visit. Another favorite was Rupel. This is a small family run estate next to the Greek border. The views alone are worth the drive, with vineyards stretching toward the mountains in every direction. So they focus heavily on indigenous varieties like Tamianka and Melnik, which is exactly what I want to taste when I visit the country. One of my favorite memories was being greeted with freshly baked traditional bread by the town's mayor. Villa Melnik was another standout and probably one of the wineries I think about the most often. So during the tasting, I sampled more than 20 wines. Their orange wine, made by a Sauvignon Blanc grape, is still just so memorable. It was approachable and balanced and a great introduction for anyone that's curious about orange wine. And if you're only visiting a handful of wineries, I would absolutely put Villa Melnik on the list. Villa Justina impressed me for a completely different reason. So not only do they produce excellent wines, but they also manufacture tanks used by many wineries throughout Bulgaria. So their vineyards sit next to a beautiful public park where locals gather for weddings, picnics, and events. And it was a great example of how deeply wine culture is just woven into everyday life. Then there was Karabunar. This winery is doing everything from rosé and orange to Bulgaria's traditional spirit, rakia. Their female winemakers is experimenting with unusual blends and aging programs using both French and Bulgarian oak. So these were among the most expensive wines I tasted in Bulgaria, but they absolutely justified the price. If there's one place I would not miss, it's Zornitsa family estate. So imagine a luxury Tuscan resort with private villas, a winery, incredible food, vineyard views, and a swimming pool, and a wine cave. Now imagine everything costs about half of what you would pay in Italy. That is Zornitsa. And it's one of the best wine hospitality experiences I've had anywhere in Europe. What impressed me most about Bulgaria wasn't just the wine, it was the value overall. So, over and over again, our group would taste wine, discuss what we thought it should cost, and then discover it was significantly less than we expected. Many of the wines reminded me of producers that I really love from France's Rhone Valley or even like Languedoc Roussillon. They were clearly old world in style. They were balanced, food friendly, super drinkable, but they were interesting without being weird, which is kind of a difficult balance to achieve. That's one of the reasons I think Bulgarian wine has such a bright future. So after two separate wine-focused trips to Bulgaria, what stands out most isn't any one winery or bottle, it's just how consistently the country over-delivers. The wines are better than most people expect, hospitality is way warmer than most places, and the prices are lower than what you normally expect too. That's a pretty rare combination in today's wine world. So should you visit Bulgaria? Absolutely. And if you've already been to Tuscany, Bordeaux, Rioja, Napa, and you're just looking for the next great destination, Bulgaria should be near the top of your list. So if you enjoy discovering wines like these, but you just can't hop on a plane every month, you should join my wine club. So every quarter, I personally select 6 European wines that I pour behind my own wine bar and I ship them directly to your door. It's always under 200 with shipping included, and the links in the description below. I'll see you next time.